Oh, darling viewers, picture this. While the great minds of the Scottish Enlightenment were busy philosophizing about reason, liberty, and the wealth of nations, they were also enlightening themselves in far more carnal ways. Forget Adam Smith's invisible hand. These lads had very visible ones, engaged in rituals that would make a modern frat party look like a nun's tea social. Who knew that behind all that tartan and treatise lay a hotbed of wanking clubs and venereal adventures? If this tickles your fancy, or anything else, do smash that subscribe button, won't you? And pray tell in the comments from which enlightened corner of the globe are you tuning in, and at what ungodly hour? Is it dawn in Dundee or midnight in Manhattan? Ah, the Scottish Enlightenment, that golden era from 1710 to 1800 when Scotland burst forth like an intellectual supernova, birthing giants like David Hume, Adam Smith, and James Hutton. They pondered empiricism, economics, and the Earth's ancient rocks, all very high-minded, you'd think. But peel back the layers of those powdered wigs and starched cravats, and what do you find? A veritable orgy of oddities, where the pursuit of knowledge met the pursuit of pleasure in ways that would scandalize even the most jaded Regency rake. We're talking secret societies dedicated to the convivial celebration of male sexuality, which is Enlightenment speak for group wanks, phallic toasts, and a dash of voyeurism thrown in for good measure. It's as if these philosophers decided that if reason was king, then the loins were the unruly court jester, demanding equal airtime. Let's start with the crown jewel of Scottish smut, the most ancient and puissant order of the Beggars Benison and Maryland. Founded in 1732 in the quaint fishing village of Anstruther, Fife, because nothing says sophisticated debauchery like a seaside hamlet smelling of herring, this gentleman's club was no ordinary gathering of pipe-smoking boors. Oh no, my dears. Inspired by a bawdy legend of King James V disguising himself as a beggar and bestowing a benison, that's a blessing for the uninitiated, upon a comely maiden who ferried him across a river, the club twisted this tale into a full-blown ode to the phallus. Their motto, "May prick nor purse never fail you." Charming, isn't it? Like a Hallmark card penned by a particularly randy poet. Now, imagine the scene, a room full of Enlightenment elites, merchants, lawyers, even the occasional lord or customs officer, all sworn to secrecy, gathering under the dim flicker of candles. No wives allowed, naturally. This was homosocial heaven, where men could bond over their shared admiration for the male form without the pesky interference of actual romance. Initiation rites? Positively eye-watering. New recruits, dubbed knights, were required to strip down and perform a solo act of self-love onto a communal pewter platter. Yes, you heard that right, a testing platter, engraved with erotic symbols, where each man proved his virility by contributing his, essence. If modern dating apps had a historical precursor, this would be it. Tinder, but with more pewter and less swiping left. And the toasts, oh, the toasts were legendary, lifted straight from the pages of scandalous pamphlets that circulated like underground zines. They'd raise glasses to the beggar's benison, invoking images of royal romps and fertile fields, Maryland being their euphemism for the female anatomy, borrowed from smutty literature of the day.
One particularly ironic gem, toasting the health of their members. Pun very much intended, while decrying the prudery of the Kirk, Scotland's stern Presbyterian church that frowned upon anything funner than a dour sermon. These lads were rebels with a cause, or rather with a clause in their charter promoting free love and the joys of masturbation, at a time when Swiss quack Samuel Auguste Tissot was penning treatises warning that solo sessions led to blindness, madness, and societal collapse. Ha! As if these Scots gave a fig for continental scaremongering. They were too busy collecting erotic engravings and seals stamped with vulvas and erect penises, treating them like fine art. Compare that to today's OnlyFans. Back then, you had to join a secret society to get your fix. Now, it's just a subscription away. Progress, or a loss of mystique. But wait, there's more gossip to spill. The Benison wasn't alone in its peculiarities. Spin-offs popped up like mushrooms after rain. The Wig Club in Edinburgh, where members donned enormous wigs shaped like, well, let's just say they weren't for covering bald spots. Rituals involved parading phallic symbols and reciting ribald poetry, all under the guise of intellectual discourse. David Stevenson, in his deliciously detailed tome The Beggar's Benison, Sex Clubs of Enlightenment Scotland and Their Rituals, paints these as products of the era's libertarian spirit. The Enlightenment, after all, championed individual freedom. Why not extend that to the bedroom, or in this case, the clubroom? It's ironic, isn't it? While Hume was dismantling superstition with razor-sharp skepticism, his countrymen were erecting altars to Eros, blending philosophy with philandering in a way that would make Freud chuckle. Of course, not all the weirdness was confined to clubs. Enter the everyday eccentricities of Scottish sexuality, whispered about in pamphlets like Ranger's Impartial List of the Ladies of Pleasure in Edinburgh, a 1775 guidebook rating prostitutes by looks, skills, and venereal status, like a Yelp for harlots. Edinburgh, that Athens of the North, was riddled with brothels along the Royal Mile, where ladies of pleasure plied their trade amid the stench of closes and the clamor of carts. Scandals abounded. Take the case of the Highland plantation owners, who in the 18th century shipped off to the Caribbean and kept sex slaves on their estates, a grim twist on Enlightenment notions of empire and exploitation. Or the cross-dressing balls rumored in Glasgow taverns, where men in petticoats danced the night away, blurring lines in a society that publicly hanged sodomites but privately turned a blind eye. No convictions for homosexuality in 18th century Scotland, mind you, perhaps because the Kirk was too busy witch-hunting to notice the real magic happening behind closed doors. And let's not forget the medical madness. Enlightenment doctors, armed with newfangled anatomy texts, debated the perils of self-pollution while prescribing bizarre cures for the clap, mercury ointments that rotted teeth faster than they healed sores. It's a wonder anyone survived the era's sexual roulette. Yet survived they did, propagating a legacy of libertinism that trickled into literature and lore. Robert Burns, that bard of the late Enlightenment, immortalized rustic romps in poems like The Fornicator, winking at the hypocrisy of a nation that preached piety but practiced passion. In this swirling vortex of wit and wantonness, the Scottish Enlightenment emerges not just as a beacon of reason, but as a lighthouse illuminating the fog of desire, weird, wonderful, and utterly unapologetic.
So there you have it, folks, The Beggar's Benison, where enlightenment met ejaculation in perfect harmony. But hold on to your kilts. Next part, we dive into the venereal voyages of one James Boswell, whose exploits make Casanova look like a choir boy. Dearest scandal seekers, if you thought The Beggar's Benison was peak Enlightenment eccentricity, brace yourselves for James Boswell, the biographer who immortalized Samuel Johnson while busily immortalizing his own member in every willing London orifice. Casanova, a mere amateur. Boswell turned venereal roulette into a lifestyle, catching the clap more often than a modern influencer catches likes. Ah, James Boswell, that roguish Scot of the Enlightenment, born in 1740 to a stern judge father and pious mother in Edinburgh, heir to the Auchinleck estate, yet forever fleeing the dour clutches of Calvinist Scotland for the glittering sins of London. Best known today as the chap who penned the greatest biography in English, The Life of Samuel Johnson, Boswell was, in his youth, a walking pamphlet of debauchery. While his contemporaries like David Hume pondered skepticism and Adam Smith the invisible hand, Boswell was gripped by a very visible urge, chronicling his conquests with the candor of a modern oversharer. His London Journal of 1762 to 63 reads like a Tinder diary from hell, swipes right on prostitutes in St. James's Park, al fresco romps under bridges, and a running tally of gonorrhea bouts that would make a urologist weep. Picture the young Bozzy, barely 22, fleeing paternal expectations for a Dards commission, denied naturally, and diving headfirst into the capital's underbelly. He'd prowl the parks at dusk, picking up ladies of pleasure for a shilling or two, cheap thrills in an era when 1 in 5 Londoners reportedly had syphilis by their mid-30s, per those diligent historians sifting hospital records. Boswell, ever the optimist, armed himself sporadically with condoms, those reusable animal gut sheaths tied with ribbon, meant to shield against the pox, but often forgotten in the heat of passion. Result? At least 17, nay, up to 19 documented episodes of venereal distress, from his very first tumble to his dying days. Mercury treatments followed, salivation cures that rotted teeth and ravaged bodies faster than the disease sometimes did. It's ironic, isn't it? The age of reason producing a man who reasoned his way into repeated infection, all while vowing celibacy post each agonizing bout. But oh, the highlights. Enter Louisa, the actress from Covent Garden, whom Boswell wooed like a tragic hero in December 1762. He fancied her genteel, safe from disease, a woman of fashion rather than street trade. Nights of passion ensued. 5 times was I fairly lost in supreme rapture, he boasted, declaring himself a prodigy of virility. Louisa, smitten, called it extraordinary for human nature. Yet weeks later, symptoms struck: violent gonorrhea, confinement to quarters, bitter confrontation. She swore innocence, claiming a past infection long cured. He accused her of deceit. The affair ended in a blistering letter, Boswell playing the wounded rake. Modernize, see hypocrisy, our hero spreading as much as catching, yet blaming the women every time.
Boswell's escapades weren't confined to London brothels and parks, those shadowy closes reeking of vice, where Progress of a Woman of Pleasure illustrations captured the era's grim trade. On his grand tour, he pursued nobility and novelty alike, even bedding Rousseau's mistress, Thérèse, en route. Poor judgment from Hume, who entrusted the escort. Back home, he married his cousin, Margaret, in 1769, fathered children, yet strayed relentlessly, alcoholism and gambling compounding his melancholy swings. Friends joked about his infections. He treated them as badges of manly vigor in a libertine age. Compared to his sober mentors, Hume, the cheerful skeptic, lived celibately, or discreetly, dying rationally in 1776 with Boswell at his bedside. Smith, ever prudent, sublimated desires into economics, perhaps pining unrequitedly. Boswell? He embodied the Enlightenment's dark twin, reason by day, rampant id by night. His journals, unearthed centuries later, scandalized Victorians, yet humanized the era, a nation preaching piety while plunging into passion, where pamphlets rated harlots like Yelp reviews, and the pox lurked in every embrace. In this hypocritical swirl, Boswell emerges not as monster, but mirror, reflecting a Scotland enlightened in mind, yet enslaved to the flesh. His exploits make the beggar's benison seem almost quaint. No group rituals for Bozzy, just solo quests for ecstasy amid epidemic. Thus ends Boswell's venereal odyssey, a prodigy of profligacy in powdered wigs. But darlings, next we'll uncover Robert Burns, the plowman poet, whose rustic romps birthed bastards and ballads in equal measure. Stay tuned.